Okay. Okay, so we're gonna get started. I'm gonna go quickly through the first few slides. Most of you have seen them before, but I also want to make sure that if you weren't here earlier, you see them. And even if you have taken the earlier two courses, but it wasn't today, just as a quick review. So the focus of this afternoon is keeping rigor and expectations high in a culturally responsive classroom. I am Christine Del Negro. I am a consultant with Solved, and I am your facilitator for today. This is a quick look at the agenda. So we're going to be looking at what are rigor and expectations, student and teacher role in promoting them, and then how do you use CRSE to promote rigor and high expectations. So when you, Zoom is really just not my friend today. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. When you think about rigor and high expectations, what words come to mind? Why don't you just put it in the chat? So 3 words that come to mind when you think of rigor and high expectations. Yep, definitely pushing students out of their comfort zone. SMART goals. Determination, patience, and effort. Multiple ways to solve. These are the words that came to me right now. I think about critical thinking, conversation, and a growth mindset. Flexibility, yeah, definitely. Okay, great. I also think rigor involves multiple modalities. So asking students to be able to think about something, talk about it, write about it, whether you're talking about, and maybe some kind of hands-on component. So I think that's another aspect of it. Okay. Okay, so many of you have seen this already today, but the CRSE framework is an initiative by the New York State Education Department to create more inclusive education in our schools. The 4 components are a welcoming and affirming environment, high expectations and rigorous learning, inclusive curriculum and assessment, and ongoing professional learning. So high expectations and rigorous learning is the second principle of culturally responsive education. And we want the environment to be academically rigorous and intellectually challenging. We want it to push students out of their intellectual comfort zone and push them to do things that they might not think that they can do. But we also want to make sure that we're recognizing the different ways that students learn, and that we're not pushing them out of their comfort zone in terms of asking them to do things that they're, that may not make them feel safe. So it's a balancing act to figure out exactly what that looks like, and it's going to look different in different situations, because we want to create that safe environment where students feel that they can take risks, and that if they make a mistake, nobody's going to laugh at them, nobody's going to criticize them. They're going to learn from those mistakes so that they can continue to move on. So the teacher's role, we're going to be looking at the teacher's role, and then we're also going to look at the student's role. So the expectations for the teacher are that he or she is going to expect that students are going to be able to achieve these expectations. And part of that is really starting to think about, what is your own bias? Where do you sort of, make assumptions about students? What are your blind spots? And by definition, our blind spots are blind. We can't see them. So I think it's often helpful to have conversations with colleagues about some of these things, because other people will see things in our practice that we don't see. The other thing to think about is recording yourself as you're teaching and really looking at it with a critical eye, but not when I say critical eye, I don't mean like tear yourself apart, but look at what are the things you're doing well? What are the things that maybe you're not doing so well? And then what would you want to change based on what you saw? So again, and it has to be centered on the students in the classroom, and really asking them to share their identities rather than minimizing them. And then we have alternative metrics. So we're looking at different types of assessment that allow students to shine in different ways. Again, in one of the earlier sessions, we talked about multiple access points, which can mean different things around what we're talking about. But in this, in this particular area, multiple access points would be what are the student's strengths, and how can I assess those strengths in a way that allows me to see what the student truly understands. And then providing opportunities to examine power and privilege, opportunities to present to their peers, current events, and being responsive to student experiences. Okay, I'm gonna see where this is. There's a video here and I can't remember which slide it goes with. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so this is a video with Carol Dweck. And if you're not familiar with her, she coined the phrase growth mindset. She is a researcher at Stanford, or she was, I don't know if she's still there. You have
Are your kids in grades 6 to 11?
Probably heard of the growth mindset. If you haven't, it's just the idea that you're not either good at something or not good at something. There is a learning curve, and if you apply yourself and you're given appropriate support, you should be able, you can grow and you can get better at something. Okay, the link to the slideshow, the whole slideshow, that I'm going to assume that that is what you were looking for. So I will put that in the chat right now. Okay. Oh. I have to. Okay.
And Harvard has made SAT and ACT score submission optional in its admissions process. If they don't require
the power of yet. I heard about a high school in Chicago where students had to pass a certain number of courses to graduate. And if they didn't pass a course, they got the grade not yet. And I thought that was fantastic, because if you get a failing grade, you think, I'm nothing, I'm nowhere. But if you get the grade not yet, you understand that you're on a learning curve. It gives you a path into the future. Not yet also gave me insight into a critical event early in my career, a real turning point. I wanted to see how children coped with challenge and difficulty. So I gave 10-year-olds problems that were slightly too hard for them. Some of them reacted in a shockingly positive way. They said things like, I love a challenge, or, I was hoping this would be informative. They understood that their abilities could be developed. They had what I call a growth mindset. But other students felt it was tragic, catastrophic. From their more fixed mindset perspective, their intelligence had been up for judgment and they failed. Instead of luxuriating in the power of yet, they were gripped in the tyranny of now. So what do they do next? I'll tell you what they do next. In one study, they told us they would probably cheat the next time instead of studying more if they failed a test. In another study, after a failure, they looked for someone who did worse than they did so they could feel really good about themselves. And in study after study, they have run from difficulty. Scientists measured the electrical activity from the brain as students confronted an error. On the left, you see the fixed mindset students. There's hardly any activity. They run from the error. They don't engage with it. But on the right, you have the students with the growth mindset, the idea that abilities can be developed. They engage deeply. Their brain is on fire with yet. They engage deeply. They process the error. They learn from it and they correct it. How are we raising our children? Are we raising them for now instead of yet? Are we raising kids who are obsessed?
Okay, I'm just going to stop it there for now because that's really the part that's most relevant. to what we're talking about today, but I will put the link for that video in the chat. So that you have it if you want to go back and take a look. It's also linked in your slides. Okay, so looking at the student's role in rigor and high expectation. They need to do more than what feels academically comfortable. They need to set high goals and continuously revise them. So the SMART goals that someone mentioned before, that which are, let me see if I can, it's short-term, measurable, timed. I cannot remember what the A and the R stand
It's
for.
short-term, measurable, attainable, real, and timable.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So those are really great, and not just for the teacher to set them for students, but to do that in conversation with students, and either to talk about as a teacher, like, this is what I would like to see you do in this time frame, but then also having the students be able to reflect on where they are and where they would like to be, and thinking about how they're going to create goals for themselves. Because that is empowering for students. It gives them a feeling of being in control of what they're learning and how they're learning it. And for many of these students, they don't feel like they're in control of their lives. Excuse me, and they haven't been taught to take control. So if we can help them develop some of those skills, that is really helpful. And that goes for students of any background, because many of our kids, regardless of, what their cultural background is, are just not taught these skills. And they really make a difference. And it really, like, when you're in a difficult time in your life, having a belief that you can figure it out and you can break it apart is huge. So teaching these things to students when they're young is really is going to just do so much for them. And then using their own learning and prior experiences, their cultural backgrounds, to, to put context to what they're learning. So we want to focus on producing high quality work that students are taking pride in, help students to learn to advocate for themselves and celebrate their successes. And I think also we want to celebrate their successes, and we also want to redefine what success means. Success is not just getting the A. Success is, wow, you worked really hard on that and you moved from point A to point B in a relatively short period of time, or you really struggled with that and you didn't give up and you just kept trying again and again and again, and look how far you've come. So I think we really do need to redefine success and kind of take it away from the grades. Grades are important, but what's more important is, what are you learning about the subject? What are you learning about yourself? How are you growing as a student and as a person? And then again, this co-creation of explicit classroom expectations is something that the teacher and students need to do together. Okay, so there are a lot of resources in this session, and what I think I would like to do is I'd like to give you some time to peruse them, because there's a link here. There are multiple links in some of the other slides, and then there are a whole bunch of links here. And I think part of what happens in these courses, because there's so much information and not a lot of time, is a lot of it is sort of thrown at you and you don't have a lot of opportunity to process. So I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I haven't done this before, but as I was looking over everything to get ready, I just thought that it would be beneficial for people to just have 10 or 15 minutes to look through the resources that feel like they're most relevant for you, that are of interest to you, and take some notes and think about it. And then we'll come back and have a conversation. I may even put you into breakout rooms, because I also think that that is where the best conversations tend to happen. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to start to put some of the links in the chat. Well, you should all, if you have the slideshow open, all of the links are in the slideshow. So you can start accessing them from there. But I will also put some of them in the chat as well. So it is 1:23. I'm going to say take about 10, why don't we say 15 minutes to read through some of these. Some of them I think are videos. Yeah, so if you go to slide 27, which is activity 3, rigor and high expectations, classroom action, there are a group of videos, and they are categorized by subject area. So you can choose the one that's most relevant for you, or one or more. You won't have an opportunity, well, they're about, some of them are longer than 10 minutes. So you may not be able to finish it, but you can take a look at one of those. You can read one of the articles that I linked. And there is a document, a Google Doc, that is linked to slide 25. And I'm going to put that in the chat as well. You can take some notes there around what it might, some of these strategies might look like in your classroom. And then we'll come back together at like 1:40, and I'll either put you into breakout rooms, or we'll just have some conversations about what you learned, what your thoughts are. And we'll go from there. Does that sound good? Okay, great. So, excellent. So, does anyone have any questions about what you're going to do? Because I rattled off a lot pretty quickly. Okay, great. So I will be here. I'm going to stop the recording for right now. Okay, I think we have everybody back. So I heard some interesting conversations. I think you guys are really, thinking about this deeply, sharing your thoughts, really thinking about your teaching practice, which I think is just, so admirable. And I hope that you have found the information here to be helpful. And I really do. I know, there are so many things that you can read, but I really encourage you to go back, particularly for this session. I know many of you were in the other sessions, and I think all of the resources that we shared are really great. But in this session in particular, I would highly recommend reading the 2 articles that are earlier in the slides. They're not on that bigger slide, the one that had the videos by topic. The one on academic rigor, and one is the ultimate guide to academic rigor, and then the other one was from learningsciences.com. Oh no, that's the academic rigor one. Not seeing the other one, but both of those I think just have so much information that is really helpful. The academic rigor one in particular just really outlines things in a way that I think makes it accessible, and kind of talks about the things, the places where we go wrong as educators, and we think we're creating rigor, but we're not. And so some of the pitfalls that you may find yourself in, and kind of how to shift those. The other thing I wanted to say was, someone had put in the chat that it's all about teamwork, and I completely agree. And I just wanted to mention, and I know, every school culture is different, and some cultures are more conducive to this than others, but I think teamwork, we always talk about teamwork and collaboration with students, but it's really powerful with teachers as well. I know for myself, I spent honestly a lot of my career in my classroom with the door closed, not because I wanted to, but I felt that just seemed to be the culture of the schools I was in from time to time. The best experiences I had were the experiences where I was able to collaborate with grade level colleagues or other peers and really plan together, or even just talk about students and say, hey, like, this is what's going on with this student. I'm really struggling to figure out how to help them. What thoughts do you have? So wherever you can find those collaborative opportunities, whether it's with someone that teaches the same thing you do, or, someone else, I think it's really important just for you, for your mental health, your professional growth, and also to model for students. Because I think I see it in schools all the time where teachers are telling them that they need to be collaborating, and then the teachers are not collaborating at all. So I think we need to walk the walk and talk the talk, and for students, but for yourselves as well. So that's my 5 cents on that one. I'm going to put the link to the survey in the chat, and this is your ticket to a CTLE certificate. So please submit that survey and you will receive your certificate. A couple of people were saying that they haven't received certificates from courses that they took last week. So I'm going to put the email address in the chat. You can reach out to solvedconsulting.com about your certificate. If you should get a certificate within, I would say, 48 hours. So if you took something last week and you haven't received anything yet, reach out to them. People are on vacation, so sometimes someone thinks one person took care of it and then they go on vacation, the other person comes back and doesn't know that it hasn't been done. So good resources for asking questions or teaching students how to, I cannot off the top of my head, but you know what? I'm going to give you, and I'll put this in the general chat. I will find something. So, but what I need you guys to do is just email me to remind me, because I guarantee you I will forget. Or I'll remember and then I won't know where to send it. So if you are interested in a resource on asking good questions or teaching students how to ask good questions, put your email in the chat and I will send it to you. I will say that something that is helpful, and it's not the be all and the end all, but is the DOK or the web, I'm blanking on it, Karen Hess's web, which combines the DOK and I think Bloom's taxonomy. And there are often sentence stems around that will help you, but I will see if I can find something else. but the biggest key, the thing I will say just off the top of my head with asking questions is thinking about, you want to have like the level 1 questions, which are basically like there's one answer. Then you want to have the level 2 where it's probably one answer, but it's not quite so obvious. And then level 3 and 4, which are more open-ended questions that are going to require critical thinking. You need to have all of them. So thinking about that as you're planning a lesson is one thing, but I will see what I can come up with for you. And if you put your email in the chat, I will send you something. And if you haven't heard from me by early next week, send me an email and bug me, because it is kind of a weird time. I'm kind of working some days and not working others, so it can fall through the cracks. So feel free to reach out and bug me. It's not a problem at all, and I will get that to you. Any other questions before we go? Oh, whoops, hold on. That's my fault. Thank you for catching that. Sorry about that. Make sure this is the right, no. Okay, that one, that's the one that they sent me this morning. You know what? Just go with it. That's what the office sent me this morning. I think they haven't changed it, but I'll let them know. So thank you for catching it. Okay, any other questions before we go? Thank you all. Enjoy the next couple of weeks and have a wonderful beginning of your school year. There is a link at the bottom of the survey if you're interested in signing up for more courses. We will be offering them all year. So maybe I will see you again. All right, thank you. Have a great afternoon. Bye. It's okay, just fill it out. They didn't update it.